Good afternoon. Just wanted to do a quick video, kind of a update on my garden. A couple of things I wanted to show you if I can get the camera down low enough. I think I can here. But anyway, one thing I did with my tomatoes today is, if I back out here, you can see I've got an archway. I'll give you a little better view from here. But anyway, I did an archway here with 2 cattle panels, and of course I've got a row of tomatoes on this side growing, and then I've got some over here, and over here I've got my Better Boy tomatoes. They will eventually probably grow up all the way to the top, as well as these. Over here I have 3 Cherokee purple plants and then a couple of cherry tomato plants. And of course, one thing that I've done this year, that I've had this bed of greens going, and I've actually picked a ton of salad, give away a ton of this. But what this is doing is it's providing ground cover for these tomatoes over here, which is going to help hold moisture. It also leaches nutrients into the ground, because lettuce, greens, those kind of things are very rich in nitrogen, which helps feed the tomatoes. One thing I've got to do, and I'm going to do probably before the week's up, is I'm going to come down along this side and I'm going to sow some more of these, just a spring mix, really, the red looking lettuce, which is, by the way, delicious in a salad. And then I've got romaine that's mixed in with it, but I'm going to go along the side of this and cover it with seed, and that's going to provide more ground cover. Over here, I didn't do that. Now you can see I've got a volunteer onion that's come up here, but I've got a couple of basil plants. This is going to provide protection from pests. The hornworms hate basil, and I did this last year, and I had 0 problems with hornworms getting in my tomatoes. But what I've done this morning is, if you look closely, I've got these little clips, and I'll show you a picture of those before I go away with the video. But they just go around the stem and they clip to this cattle panel. And what will happen is this tomato is going to continue to grow up. And as it does, I missed a limb there. I went in this morning and pruned around the bottom of these plants. If I could zoom in, you'd be able to see, and you may be able to see it there just a little bit. But I went in and I'm going to prune these plants as they grow. And what that's going to do is it's going to create airflow for these tomatoes, and it's going to also help the health of tomatoes. It reduces the risk of root rot. It also reduces the risk of blossom end rot. And it just provides a healthier plant. It keeps the funguses and that kind of thing from taking over. So I did that with my tomatoes. Also, moving around over here to my snap peas, you can see those. They're climbing this trellis that I've made. They're up about 4 feet now, and you can see the little white blooms. So they'll be setting peas here before long. So I'll have some snap peas. But I also took the clips, tied them to the trellis there, and you can see I've got an onion there. The other thing I did, and that I'm doing, and I would highly suggest it, I did this last year and it worked really great, but say hello to my chickens. But my squash plants, I started pruning them last year, and man, it really helped the production, and it helped the health of the plant. It reduced the squash borers and that kind of stuff from getting in it. But what I'm doing is I'm taking these tomato cages. They're shorter, they're not really tall enough, but this is going to keep that plant off the ground and keep these leaves gathered in, and I'm going to be able to see them better. It's going to reduce the risk of fungus and those kind of things from getting into the plants and destroying the plant. Now you see, I did an experiment with corn in the end of this bed. I did a block, and as you can see, it's been an abject failure. I've got 4 stalks of corn. So my plan is I'm going to go in, clean all that out, get all the grass out of it. I'm going to add some good soil to it, and then I'm going to come back probably this weekend if the rain holds off, and I'm going to plant some okra in the end of this bed. I'm going to plant probably about 3 rows, short rows of okra, which will be plenty of okra to feed. But having your squash climb, a lot of people don't realize it, and I didn't realize it till last year when I watched follow a guy on Instagram call his page is Pawpaw Ridge. And if you're a gardener, I highly suggest following this guy. He has a lot of great ideas. He's a homesteader that lives in Arkansas, and I've learned a ton of things from him. But he's really into the vertical gardening, and I picked up on the squash thing. And like I said, I did that last year, and my squash production went way up, and they actually thrived all the way till frost this fall. I was still getting squash heading into late October, so that helped with that. So I highly suggest doing the trellising. If you want to invest the time, there's not a lot of money in it in doing these archways for your tomatoes, your indeterminate tomatoes. That's the tomatoes that will climb. And certainly your cucumbers. We can come right in here and you can see my cucumbers. They're really starting to thrive. I've got some. I planted these early that you see here, and they're already climbing up, and those things will actually overlap and climb from one side to the other. And it makes it so much easier, because what happens is those cucumbers will hang down through this archway. So rather than you having to get on your hands and knees and find cucumbers, and then you miss cucumbers and they get too large and turn yellow, which in turn will begin to kill your vine. That's one thing a lot of people don't realize. If you let a tomato or squash, or cucumbers rather, and squash get too large, then your vine begins to die, because what that does, it tells that vine that, hey, my life cycle's over. I've done what I needed to do, and that vine will begin to die, especially with cucumbers. Never let your cucumbers turn yellow. Get them picked. They need to be picked and looked at daily. So anyway, we've got the archways here. So highly suggest that. As I said, it's relatively inexpensive when it comes to doing these. Those cattle panels are 50 inches wide, and they are 16 foot long. So it leaves you plenty of headspace to walk in. You basically got a tunnel to walk in to pick your tomatoes and your cucumbers. It also leaves you a lot more room in these beds. In this bed, for example, I've got cucumbers climbing the trellis. Well, I've got 3 squash plants, and if you look close, I've got small squash putting on. So I'm going to have squash here probably within another week or so. I'm going to start getting some squash. So anyway, I would suggest that. You can find the T-post. I've got mine on T-post. Now you can go to Lowe's and buy the conduit and use that. I like the T-post because it supports the weight of the tomatoes and the cucumbers a whole lot better. And those are heavier than you think. So I think all total on this particular tunnel I did for my tomatoes, I think I've got $40 in it. The cattle panels are about $20 a piece, and zip tie those to those T-posts, and you've got a ready-made archway. As far as the garden goes, I can give you a little tour here. You can see there's my early potatoes, and they are thriving. I've filled the boxes up, the bags up, the rest of the way with dirt, topped those off. I've given their last bit of blood meal, so they're going to thrive from here on. And of course here I've got my squash and cucumber bed over here. And this is another little experiment I'm doing. There's a little stub here, and I don't know if it's going to do anything this year, but I'm trying to propagate some raspberry bushes. just have to kind of wait and see how that goes. It may not work. If it don't, nothing lost. Didn't cost me anything, so not worried about that. And in this little container, I had radishes in here, harvested all the radishes out. I grew those in my greenhouse. Went back, planted some romaine lettuce in my greenhouse in this container, and a few weeks back, and they're already at this stage. So I could actually come in and clip some leaves from this and make a salad out of it, because typically what you want to do with romaine lettuce, my kale, which I'll show you here in a minute, if you'll only take about a third of these plants, they will continue to produce. Whereas if you go down, you cut the whole stalk, it'll pretty much be done. It'll put out some more leaves, but they won't produce like you'd want to. So my goal is to hopefully have lettuce on up to the hot part of the summer, and then I'll replant in the fall and hopefully have lettuce and cabbage and things like that on into the winter. Here we have our carrots. You can see I pulled out a couple because there's plenty in there. They're already forming, and so, you know, here in another month, 2 months or so, they're slow growing. You have to be patient with carrots. I'll have some carrots. These particular kind here grow to be about 4 to 5 inches long. They're not the big long carrots, and but they're delicious if you want to roast them. Put them with a pot roast, eat them with a ranch dip, whatever you want to do. Here I have my pepper beds and it's looking good. I've got in these pots, I've got Tabasco peppers. I'm going to do some pickling with those this year. And then I have a row of jalapeno, a row of habanero, a row of banana peppers, which I've already got peppers forming on those. You can see, if you look closely, you can see that. And then in the back, I have my ghost peppers, and that's what goes into my pickles. I can't wait to start pickling again and making those hot dill pickles. I had a lot of people last year I shared those with that's already put in orders for this year. And in here, I've got a planter that Miss Teresa gave me, and I've put a bottom in it. I'm going to go in, hopefully this weekend, put some potting soil in it, and probably plant some zinnias, some of the shorter zinnias in it. So got that, and of course I've already showed you my greens, salad greens. These have just, it's been amazing. As I said, I've eat out of those all spring. And over here I have my strawberries. This is just one bed. Now you can see I've got, let me find some. I've got some strawberries. Yeah, you can see down in there. They're starting to produce and are really doing well. So the bad thing about me and strawberries is it's hard for me to get enough to do much with, because if I walk by and I see strawberries, it's kind of hard not to pick them and just eat them right off the vine. They're so good. You know, share with you another failure I've had. And they should be the easiest things to do, but you see these galvanized pots, I planted or sowed wildflowers in those, and they're just not doing good. So I'm probably going to give this about another week. If I don't see some progress, I'm probably going to top these off with some good potting soil, and go back with just a bed of zinnias. I don't know, some black-eyed Susan, just stuff to kind of give us some color out here and create some stuff for some of our pollinator bugs, our bees and butterflies and hummingbirds. Now here we have, see this gigantic thing. This is called catmint. This is left over from last year. This came back out. It's a perennial, and they smell very good, and they're a good pollinator plant. And in the rest of this bed, I planted this past weekend, or set this out, and this is one of the pollinator kits that I bought and have bought for several years from 1818 Farms in Mooresville, Alabama. And they have always done good. Now, if you look at it right now, you're thinking, well, that's not going to do much. This bed will literally be covered. You won't be able to see the dirt, and it'll be very vivid colors, and it will be covered up with bees and butterflies, hummingbirds. So it's not only a good visual thing, but it's a healthy thing for not only your garden, but your environment. Here we have one of my brassica beds, which has radishes. It has the kale. Kale's kind of starting to go out on me. You can see these leaves starting to get these ends on them. That means they're getting ready to bolt. So they're going to be just about done. But the kale, first year I've grown kale, never really eaten kale, but it is, it's very good. It's very good on a salad, easy to grow. So highly recommend if you enjoy good salads. And you can plant these things in like February, and you can eat. I've been eating on the kale and stuff for a month and a half now. And then my broccoli plants are huge. I'll lower the camera and you can kind of get an idea of how big these are. And then if I move in here, you can see I'm starting to get the little broccoli heads. So looking forward to having some fresh broccoli to roast and steam. And then in here, we have the cabbage bed. In this bed alone, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 heads of cabbage. Now, I'm going to show you the worst enemy of cabbage and broccoli. You see these cute little what some people would call butterflies? These are actually moths, and I forget the exact name of them. But the little green worms that you get on your cabbage and your broccoli come from those moths. They go in, they lay the eggs, and you end up with little green worms that you have to wash off your cabbage. A lot of people say, oh, I'm not eating anything with worms on it. Well, frankly, I'd rather wash off a few cabbage worms as to eat produce from a grocer that buys its produce from, say, out on the West Coast or from Mexico or somewhere like that, that's picked early, sprayed with preservatives to keep it from going bad, and then it's set on a shelf or set in a container truck for weeks on end and gets put out on the shelf for us to consume. So, give me a few cabbage worms to thump off any day of the week versus that stuff. But one thing you can do, you can go in here. I don't see any here. There's some signs of it, but you can go in these broccoli and cabbage and look under the leaf and you'll see some eggs. Now, I actually treated this stuff with BT, which is an organic pesticide. And it doesn't kill the cabbage worms, but what it does is it tricks them. It causes them to think they're full, therefore they don't eat. But it doesn't put anything dangerous in your food supply that you're getting from your garden. It's all organic, naturally made. Down here, have a volunteer cherry tomato, so I've just put a cage up on it. And then these pots here are my beds with dill. I planted the dill. I've got a few little sprigs coming up. I've got one here, some here. It's kind of slow to go, but once it takes off big time. Radishes, I have given away and eaten radishes till I'm almost sick of it. That's just an example. Best radish crop I've had ever. And again, I plant those. A lot of people say, well, why do you plant so many radishes? Well, not only do I like radishes, love to eat them on salads. A friend of mine even pickles them. Some people eat them just salt and pepper, just as kind of a snack. But I plant them because one thing, if you were here and were looking closely, you don't see any fire ants in my garden beds. And what I've experienced is, before I started doing the radishes around my garden beds, what I experienced was fire ant infestation. They love the soft soil, and they get in the corners, and you get in there working, and I don't have to tell you what ends up happening. Those things are straight out of the pit of Hades. But since I've started planting so many radishes around my garden, I don't have any fire ants in my beds, which is a huge plus for me. So highly encourage that. Even if you don't eat them, just plant them. And I mean, they're cheap. Radishes are probably the easiest thing to grow as far as your garden will go. I mean, you plant them, you don't have to fertilize them. They grow and they start producing in about a month. You start getting radishes. So they are an easy vegetable to grow, and they're healthy. So highly suggest that. But anyway, that's all I've got today. I just kind of want to give you an overview of what I've got going on. The rain we got 3.8 inches here. Yesterday's first significant rain we've had in a couple of months. I did the experiment with the wood chips, and it's worked. I've had to water just a couple of times in the weeks that my garden's been in. I've watered, of course, when I plant stuff, I water it in. And then I've watered maybe 3 times since I planted my garden. But if you go in, say if I go in 3 days after watering, I can pull those wood chips back, say around these tomatoes. And what you find, if you run your finger in that soil, or if you reach in and pull out a clump of soil and squeeze it together, that soil will stick together. And the reason is that those wood chips are holding the moisture in. The moisture is not escaping via evaporation. It provides a weed barrier. And those chips also act like a sponge. As I water, or as it rains, like with all this rain, those wood chips will swell and they'll hold water like a sponge. And then as the air dries out, it releases that water slowly into the soil. So it's feeding the soil with that water. It also attracts valuable microscopic organisms, because it's slowly breaking down into the soil. But the most beneficial thing that it does, if I pull those wood chips back and I dig under there, you're going to find a lot of earthworms. Earthworms, I've mentioned this so many times. If you go out here in my garden and you start digging around, you're going to find hundreds of earthworms. And a lot of people say, well, that's gross. I don't want earthworms. Earthworms are your friend if you're a gardener, because they cultivate the soil by crawling through the soil, creating those tunnels. They help the soil aerate. They feed the soil from their castings. That's better known as worm poo. I know that's kind of gross, but it's okay. It's part of nature. And that's some of the best organic material you can have in your garden. So just a tip there on the wood chips. Highly suggest that. That's worked great for me this year. Plus this fall, it's going to provide a lot of good compost over the fall and winter in my soil. And when I add soil on top of this next year, because I won't pull any soil out and I will not disturb it. These beds that you're looking at, a lot of people think, okay, I've got to go in, I've got to take a shovel, I've got to turn all this dirt over. And I used to do that till I actually started kind of looking and studying the science behind it. When you disturb the soil, you disturb the underground highways, if you will, for the microscopic organisms, the earthworms, and that kind of stuff. You're better off to leave that soil as it is, add a layer of soil to the top of it. And that's whether you're gardening, if you've got a garden without the raised beds, if you've just got good soil there, if you keep that soil conditioned well, you shouldn't have to go in and do a lot of breaking up of that soil. As you add new soil to it, planting that, those roots will get down into that ground in these garden bed, raised beds anyway, and feed off the nutrients that's in there, and it benefits your garden. I've noticed a huge difference in the health of my plants, how well they grow, how fast they grow, versus when I was going in and cultivating that soil up and turning that soil up and disturbing what's down in there. So highly suggest you not do that. Just wait this spring or late winter going into early spring. Get whatever dirt you use. Just make sure, I highly suggest you go find some good organic soil conditioner. I use the local cotton gin. I use dirt from that. I have my own compost I add to it. A little bit of work goes into it, but the benefits are so much better. You go to the big box store, a lot of this stuff you buy at the big box store is nothing more than ground up wood, and it's not good soil. So be careful what kind of soil you add. You want to look for the organic stuff that's got the organic materials in it that's composting. But anyway, that's the update for now. I'll keep everybody posted. It's been great starting to harvest some things out of here, and looking forward to the next month or so as we begin to get more and more stuff out of the garden. And as always, if you have a question, if you have a tip, maybe you got something you say, hey, you need to try this. Hey, comment on here, comment on the Facebook. I'll post this to Facebook. But anyway, I'm always looking for ways to learn. And in turn, I want to help people learn as they garden or as they're getting into gardening. So if you ever have a question, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm not hard to find. Facebook, Instagram, here on YouTube. My phone number is even on my Facebook page, so you can shoot me a text. I'll be glad to correspond with you that way. As I always say, unless you're creepy. If you're creepy, I'll block you, so don't be creepy. But anyway, have a great day. Get out and enjoy it. If you've got a garden, enjoy it. Do it for the enjoyment. Don't make it work. Do it because you enjoy doing it. Promise you, it's therapeutic to get your hands in the dirt. But anyway, you guys have a great day, and let's get to gardening.